All right, so you heard it, 4 o'clock on Saturday, Penn plays Drexel. So I hope to see all of you at the Palestra. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Gutman, Mr. Weiss, and everyone here tonight, students, donors, for giving me the opportunity to share my Penn story. On September 2nd, 2009, somehow 4 years ago, I moved into my new home, Baldwin 208 in Fisher-Hassenfeld College House. My dream of Penn was coming to fruition. 1 year earlier, I had begun my senior year at Northeast High School in Northeast Pennsylvania, which, ironically enough, is in northwestern Pennsylvania. I had happily traded my small rural town of roughly 10,000 people for an urban university of roughly 10,000 undergraduates. There were more traffic lights within 20 yards of the quad than there were in my entire hometown. Things were a little bit different. As a freshman, Penn's opportunities, like the city of Philadelphia, seemed limitless, and I got out to a fast start. By the end of October, I was gainfully employed in President Gutman's office. I joined the men's basketball program as a student manager, and I had engaged with the then National Economic Council Director, Larry Summers, at a Writers House event. By the time my parents made their first visit, a 7-hour drive, to see me at Penn, I thought I had it all figured out. Their visit happened to coincide with a Penn event honoring my scholarship donors, Jay and Patty Baker, and my parents were able to tag along. So, for their first meal with me as a Penn student, my parents were fortunate enough to share the company of the Bakers, John M. Humpson, Wharton Dean Ton Robertson, and, of course, President Gutman. My dad joked to President Gutman that he expected me to be the president of the university by the time they made their second trip, and at the time, it really didn't seem all that unlikely. In some ways, it just didn't seem far-fetched. Needless to say, the Penn experience was everything and more to me. Yet, as I progressed through my freshman year and into the beginning of my sophomore year, my Penn experience became decidedly less picturesque. I began to struggle in my coursework, and I had several setbacks, and I made a handful of mistakes. I was in the midst of a proverbial sophomore slump, and I even began to wonder what at one time felt unimaginable. Is Penn the right place for me? Do I deserve to be at Penn? I would like to say that my entertainment of these questions was short-lived and that I made a miraculous turnaround, but rarely, if ever, are recoveries so swift. As Penn basketball coach Jerome Allen would remind the players in the midst of a challenging basketball season during my freshman year, Rome was not built in a day. But the Penn that I had known as a freshman was still the Penn I attended, whether I could see it or not. Simply put, I just had to relearn to find my place at Penn. In the midst of my slump, I confided my self-doubts to one of my favorite Penn professors, Professor Nick Constant. As any good Penn professor would do, he gave me an assignment. Read the foreword of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. The foreword's message was clear. It was time for me to stop focusing on my struggles and to focus on the opportunities that were limitless and lay ahead. I decided to reframe the questions that had weighed on me previously, and instead of, is Penn the right place for me, I asked myself, how am I going to make Penn the right place for me? The answer was not so hard. Commit without any doubts or reservations to the things I loved at Penn. My first step was to embrace the activity that had always been my place of refuge at the university. There is no better study hall, rec center, temporary home, and yes, cathedral of basketball than the Palestra. The basketball team happened to be going through a rebuilding process of its own, and I decided to go all in as a student manager. Since then, I have attended over 200 practices and 80 games as a student, having missed no games in the past 2 years, including 2 games earlier this week at the University of Virginia. I have mopped sweat, dished out water bottles, and crisscrossed the country with the team. As my parents will reluctantly admit, there is almost nothing, including coursework, holidays, or divine intervention, that can keep me away from Penn basketball. My next opportunity came in within a week of my professor's assignment. Fortuitously, I received a mass email, which I normally delete, but this time it was from Professor Keith Weigel and Stacy Franks of the Wharton Management Department regarding Wharton's Financial Literacy Community Project. The previous summer, I had worked at Teach for America, and following my return to Penn, I had begun to seek out opportunities to engage the community and be involved at local schools. This email was my chance. I applied to the program, and before I knew it, I was teaching 4th through 6th grade financial literacy to West Philadelphia students, needs versus wants, how to make a budget, and the value of saving. It was exciting and invigorating and undoubtedly challenging. I taught 2 more semesters in the financial literacy program and now have become its co-director, seeing it expand to over 5 schools across the city of Philadelphia. And last summer, in addition to working part-time with Teach for America, I was able to receive a Wharton Social Impact Research Grant that allowed me to further explore and study my interests in education. I'm hooked. Yet, what has struck me the most in my teaching and in my research is the disparity between opportunities for students across the country. Even though the school that I had initially taught in was only a mere 7 blocks from the University of Pennsylvania, it was a world away in opportunities and resources. In many ways, the world that I had in my small hometown of Northeast was also a world away. My world in Northeast and my world at Penn were brought together, though, by the incredible generosity of my scholarship donors, Jay and Patty Baker. They, along with so many other people, many in fact here tonight, have brought countless students from worlds away to come to Penn. The enormity of this commitment, a commitment to bring worlds together, cannot be understated. But if the Bakers are any example, it is a commitment that comes from Penn pride. In the fall of 2009, at the awesome dinner that my parents were able to attend, Jay Baker told a story about the unrelenting nature of Penn pride. He referenced the fact that since he graduated from Penn, he struggled to purchase anything other than a red and blue tie. And here tonight, I stand showing signs of the same predicament. A student in Huntsman Hall, a financial literacy teacher in Philadelphia, a work-study student in President Gutman's office, and a basketball manager in the Palestra, all in the same day. This was the place that I made for myself at Penn, and why I love Penn today, and why I have Penn pride. And none of this would have been possible without the generosity of those who have preceded me, those who have committed to sharing their Penn pride. I am already eager to pay my Penn pride forward, whether it is wearing red and blue ties for the rest of my life, or hopefully one day endowing a scholarship of my own. It is events like tonight that highlight the best of this university, an event that brings together so many people from so many diverse backgrounds with one thing in common: their love of Penn. And perhaps that is the most powerful gift of all. Not just simply sharing Penn with a current or future student, but teaching them how to love it. Thank you very much.